In the movie Feast of Legend, Chen Zhen kicking the plague of sick men of East Asia made many Chinese blood surge. The nation endured the hardships to plan retaliation for the central mark of shame. 100 years later, and Tokyo Olympics, China not only won gold and silver all the way, firmly holding top 3 in the medal table. From being the sick man of East Asia a century ago to being a sporting nation today, how has Chinese made a step-by-step comeback to break the prejudice of racial genetic determinism? Could it be that Su's genes has mutated? To answer this question, we have to compare the physique of Chinese people today with that of 100 years ago. According to Lancet 2019, the average height of the 19-year-olds is 175.7 cm for Chinese males and 176.9 cm for American males. However, in 1900, the average height was 161.6 cm for Chinese men, while it was 165 cm for European. However, such data have already indicated that Chinese were beginning to become weaker at that time. A study by the Institute of History of Chinese Academy of Social Science in 2015 showed that the average height of a man in Qing Dynasty should be between 166.5 to 171.6 cm, and that in the Northern Wei Dynasty was 167.4 cm. However, by late Qing Dynasty and early the Republic of China, due to war and periodical population expansion, the height of Chinese people began to decline year by year. At the time of the 1894 naval battle, Ishiguro Todanori selected 77 Qing prisoners of war and 14,218 Japanese soldiers and compared their average physical standards. The conclusion was that Qing soldiers were significantly better than the Japanese soldiers in both height and chest circumference. However, they were far inferior to Japanese soldiers in 3 indicators: weight, lung capacity, and grip strength. Wu Xian, a famous Chinese chemist in modern China, believed that the main cause of this phenomenon was diet. He conducted a social survey of Chinese diet centering on Beiping and found that the Chinese diet at that time was dominated by rice and noodles, with other foods as supplementary food. High carbohydrate, low protein, and low vitamins were 3 nutritional sticking points for Chinese that Wu had identified. However, meat, eggs, and dairy products have very important nutritional values and are important sources of essential iron, zinc, calcium, vitamin B12, and protein for humans. B12 is insufficient, a person will be prone to fatigue, poor muscle coordination, and dementia. In contrast, Western countries that had gone through Industrial Revolution had a significant advantage in this regard. In Britain, for example, meat was a luxury available only to the wealthy in the 1830s. By the early 20th century, however, with the productivity advantages brought by the Industrial Revolution, the average British worker could already purchase nearly 3 pounds of meat or lamb per week. And many modern technologies brought about by industrialization in industrialized countries of the time, including England, made meat much cheaper. Railroads made it possible to purchase large quantities of meat from distant regions, and the use of refrigeration and freezing machines made cross-country and ocean transport of large quantities of meat less of a problem. At the same time, the rise of canning technology and preservation technology has made a variety of canned meats regular on the table. Benefiting from the dramatic improvement in nutrition, the average height of British soldiers during World War I had reached 170 cm. However, good nutrition and physical fitness is only a potential, and for this potential to transform into strength, it requires strong support for sports and national level and the cultivation of a national sportsmanship with a passion for sports. In 19th and 20th century, nationalism began to proliferate worldwide, and sports unexpectedly became the glue that helped people together to strengthen their self-identity. In 1877, the first international cricket match was held. It was originally an internal match between England and its old possession Australia. The athletes representing Australia, however, preferred to think of Australia as their own country. The All India cricket team, which toured England in 1911, also strengthened its identity with the concept of India nationhood in the same way. The Western countries took great pains to promote sports to make these uncivilized colonies identify with Western culture, but they didn't expect it to stoke fires of revolution. Back to the Olympics. Before 1908, the teams participating in the Olympics were not limited to national sports teams. From 1908, each country set up its own national team to compete, and the sports became nationalized. In contrast, China, which was suffering from internal and external problems at the time, was aware of the relationship between sports and nationalism, but took many detours in the process of establishing its own view of sports due to the special circumstances of the era. After the September 18 incident in 1931, the country and the nation were in a life and death crisis, and China's dismal performance in the Far Eastern Games and the 10th Olympic Games led some scholars and media to have a dislike for foreign sports. At this time, the shadow war was approaching, and sports, which were originally for physical and mental exercise and leisure, had to subordinate to the needs of national defense. Cheng Dengke, a professor of physical education, even suggested using the power of military and police to go into the countryside and force people of the country to do sports together. However, this idea was eventually reduced to empty talk because of China's divided political situation. This showed the country's sports level is not entirely determined by so-called racial superiority or inferiority, because we are not animals living in nature. Only a strong nation can produce physical fit people. When we established progressive and united the People's Republic of China, sports began to make progress. Some people feel that as productivity increases and the economy recovers, it's inevitable that people's nutrition and physical fitness will improve. Our neighbor India also has a large population, but has won only 3 Olympic gold medals in the last 40 years. China's sporting success is not due to a genetic mutation, nor is there just a better food and richer life. There are several other crucial factors. The first and most important factor is implementation of mass sports. In the past, sports in China were only a tool to serve the powerful few. Today, the number of people regularly participating in sports in China is over 400 million, 35%, and fitness facilities are everywhere. At the beginning of the People's Republic of China, we had only 4,982 sports venues. Today, there are 3.1 million. In particular, the Level 3 training network consisting of primary and secondary school sports teams, sports schools, provincial professional teams, and national training teams. Another equally important factor is the government's practice of concepts of scientific sports. In Tokyo Olympics, Su Bingtian once again broke his old Asian record, improving from 9.91 to 9.83 seconds. Su doesn't have false long legs. He broke the limits of yellow race by long-term scientific training. Rathman, a leading international track and field biomechanics expert in Su's team, created a database based on data collected in the past from outstanding sprinters, and he inputted Su's various data to get the best model. It's clear that China's progress is not a genetic mutation, but the result of combination factors such as productivity, nutrition, mass participation, and training. For a long time, many countries have been prejudiced against the athletic talent of the yellow race. Japan has even adopted genetic modification to allow many half-African, half-Japanese athletes or even naturalized athletes to join the Japanese national team. However, China, with its own efforts and determination, has proved to the world that race is never the most important factors in a sports competition. Basketball is no longer a world dominated by blacks. Long-distance running is not just a stage for Africans. Sooner or later, Chinese will stand on the podium of a 100-meter race. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you enjoy it.